Welcome to the Bank Marketing Show, the podcast that engages and informs you for success in today's marketplace. It's the show that will make you a better marketer with trends, tactics, and inspiration from experts and industry leaders. If you're wanting to impact your personal success and position your bank as the best choice in your market, you're in the right place. Now let's dive into today's show with your hosts, Chris and Dan.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another great episode of the Bank Marketing Show. We're glad to have you with us today. If you're a regular listener, you know that we have moved through several series and are kind of on a roll with some really talented and insightful guests. And today fits along with that really well. We're excited. So first of all, hey, Dan, welcome.
Hello. Good morning. Good afternoon, whenever you're listening to this.
That's right. And welcome to you, Hollie. We're so glad to have you. And since you and Dan have had connection, I'll let you, Dan, bring Hollie in.
Yeah. Well, welcome, Hollie.
Thank you for having me.
Today we've got Hollie Brown on the show. She is VP of Marketing for Coastal Community Bank, which is a $1.5, $2 billion.
3.7.
3.6. 3.7 billion dollar institution in the Puget Sound, Washington State area. So Hollie does, I think, all the good things you'd expect a VP of marketing to do. But today, she's not today. In general, she's doing some really interesting stuff around content and building content that to really pull leads in, right? Which is not something you always see banks doing. There's a lot of talk about content. We've had, several different episodes on it, but I think this kind of stuff you're doing, Hollie, gets at this from a different angle. So I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us a little about your background. Like, how long have you been at the bank? What led you to this? I think we've had a lot of guests on that. Obviously everybody's kind of in bank marketing, but nobody ever intends to get into bank marketing. It's not life goals from a young age type of thing. But we all have interesting stories. So tell us yours. How give us a bit about your background and how you got to this.
Sure. Absolutely. So I went to school for journalism and absolutely loved that, but then also found that I couldn't be unbiased in my reporting. But that naturally led to marketing. And so I had worked at an accounting firm for almost 6 years. And then I started my own agency, partially because I wanted to do more digital content work. And then one of my clients was a bank, which they hired me to do their digital program. And so I spent a lot of time with them, and then they offered me a role. And so I really liked working for them. And so I got into banking through one of my clients that hired me. And so that was my former bank, People's Bank, which I still have close to my heart. And then I joined Coastal 2.5 years ago. Coastal's doing some really cool things, which attracted me. And Coastal also attracted me because I could do a program like this, which is not something that most community banks do.
Yeah. Well, Hollie, so you mentioned content and digital in the same set of breaths there, which is super.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit, maybe kind of big picture, how those things marry and work together and start to look in your daily world.
Yeah. So content is, having been a writer a majority of actually all of my career, and also understanding the value of good content and content that's applicable at the time of reading, and being able to target that content to people at the time that they need it is something that I really love doing. And so what the program that we are doing here is, it's a little bit different than a lot of the other programs, because there's a lot of content programs out for retail. So the consumer side, educating them about finances. There's several vendors that you can hire to do that content program for you, but their business section is really small. But as a business bank, that's a need. If you have small to medium-sized businesses, though, that the content section of those is, it might have 10 articles, and they're not necessarily current. And so my goals with this program is to keep our business customers updated on what's going on, and then also answering their questions that they have. And so what that means is I have a group of subject matter experts in the bank that are bankers, and I meet with them once a month, and we talk about what customers are talking about, what their pain points are, and then we look to provide solutions for them. If the solution isn't something that we can provide, then we tap our network and say, hey, what are the answers to this question? Or what are your thoughts on this? And then we provide that education or those updates through content to our customers. So that could be through a newsletter, which includes a guide or blog post or an event where we've brought those resources to the forefront so that our customers can stay updated. And the benefit for our customers is that they're learning, and they also are getting that additional brand impression from us because we care. We want them to know, and we want to help them answer their questions. But continue to have those brand impressions from us and get the education that they're looking for. And then for us, our benefit is that we continue to have this engagement pool of people that are not only our customers, but people in our businesses and our community that have signed up to continue to receive financial education from us because their business wants it. And so they continue to get more brand impressions from us.
I think that's a really important thing that when you're doing a bunch of interesting stuff there. But one thing I wanted to
covered it all simply.
Well, one thing I want to kind of like double click on there was like the asking customers for, things that they're wondering about, things that they need, talking to your bankers about, questions that you're getting, right? Can you talk a little more about like that process and how you find the topics to write about?
Sure. So, a small part of it is me just being curious from a business standpoint of what's going on in the market, what people are curious about. And I can identify a news story pretty quickly. But a good example is, and this is not something that's uncommon, but we do have a customer base that is on the 55 plus side. And those customers are thinking about retirement and what does that look like? And so last year, we did a business succession planning series. So that included a guide, which we interviewed local experts, a lawyer, and several different experts that we then created a guide for this. These are the things that you need to think about when business succession planning. And then additionally, we had a bunch of blog posts that correlated with that. And then we ended with a webinar with a customer talking about their experience on succession planning, as well as those experts. And so we did that whole series, and all that content is evergreen on our website so that if our customers ever are curious, and then our bankers can use that content when their customers are saying, yeah, I need to think about it. And our bankers can also use that as an outreach tool to customers or people that they're hoping are customers. And so that whole series, the succession planning series, came from that conversation from our bankers and also knowing our audience and the demographics of it. And we have this, there's a big baby boomer move. We have a lot of baby boomers that have businesses that are looking to sell. And so we wanted to capitalize on that. Also not with our customer base, but within our business community who probably is looking for help.
Yeah, I think I'm just contrasting in my head here I think the way the majority of banks, I think the majority of banks aren't doing content like this at all, but the ones that are typically are, the marketing team will meet, or, the marketing person will think of topics and, start with ChatGPT or,
Right.
write them themselves, but it's more of checking the box or crossing it off the to-do list than it is solving a problem. I mean, the article might be written to solve a problem, right? Like you might write about, I don't know, saving money on something or, securing an SBA loan.
Right.
But it's different when it's, succession planning isn't like something you normally go to a bank for.
No, there is a lending component to it, however. So there's also a banking component, because part of that conversation with my bankers was that one of my bankers was finding it, she was finding it challenging as well, because if our customers didn't have their documents in or all of their documents lined out, then they were going to find themselves in a poor situation if somebody needs to access the accounts, but they can't. So a majority of our content also has that banking component, even if it's a little bit, because it's helping our bankers communicate their needs to their customers too. So with succession planning, there's the getting your loans lined up and also positioning your company for a future buyer to get a loan, which of course we would love to do. But then at the same time, making sure that all your documents on the core bank or within your retail bank are lined up so that if anything happens outside of selling, but if something tragic happens, somebody can help carry the business forward. There's a couple of needs there. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm envisioning this is a long format process. I'm envisioning myself as a business owner. Say I'm a marketing agency owner. I am where I am, and I'm in your geographic area, and I'm not a customer of yours. Okay, but obviously I need business banking, and I've got 15 employees, and I've got all of these things, and I need that. And as someone who maybe is ancillary and not a customer of yours yet with my business, but I keep running into these things, these touch points of going, oh, that makes sense. Oh, I need that information. Oh, well, I'm about to be 55. At some point, I really need to start paying attention to succession, blah, 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 and I keep running into these things. But my other local bank, I've just got online banking and I've got whatever, but they're not resourcing me. And so I love, and am I reading your approach correct? That this is being resourceful to those around and in your community by making stories, stand out and all that. Can you talk a little bit more about that as an approach for a bank?
Yeah, that's part of the community bank magic, I think, is that the community banks, we have specifically at Coastal, we have the ability to be flexible, which is one of our values, and really support our community. We're by market share, we're the largest community bank in our community, and we want to make sure that we're supporting the business community, because the better the business community does, the better we do, of course. But as a community banks generally give back to their communities a lot through sponsorships, nonprofits, support, and things like that. And this is just our way of doing it. So I think that education is something that's important to me too, because having been a former business owner as well, this is all stuff I would have liked to have. So part of it is a little bit selfish on my experience. But yeah, I think it's part of the community bank magic to be able to provide things for customers and the community a little bit differently. That's really good. It's good content. It's not out of the box, but it's good content and relevant. So the succession planning, that led to how to sell your business. So we did a How to Sell Your Business series, which was a guide and a class and blog posts, and then additional content following. But that content series, we're showing is that, one, people want it because we're getting people to sign up to continue to receive our newsletter that are not our customers. So our customers receive it regardless. But then when you enroll on our website to either sign up for an event or download a guide or just sign up for our newsletter, we're showing people want it. So we're getting signups every day, which is very exciting. And then the best part, I think where the real magic happens is you're engaging in our content, and then you attend one of our events and you meet our bankers. And we just rated 9 out of 10 on Net Promoter Score because people love our customer service and our bankers. And so you come to one of our events because you've been engaging with our content, and then you get to meet one of our bankers, and then the magic happens.
I think that's a really another thing here that a lot of banks aren't doing, right? If you are producing content, you're probably using it just for the newsletters or just for current customers. I don't see a lot of banks trying to then grow a prospect list. Can you talk a little about that? How prospects and how non-customers are finding you?
Over time, I've been here a couple of years, and so I've grown the SEO on our website. So we're getting more people finding us. But then it's really just continuing to market your content to your business associations, like your chambers, we have local business associations in all the markets that we're in, but also having your content optimized for search. So if somebody, for example, if you are looking for a loan on our website, you go to our landing page, but there's also a guide on how to get a business loan that you can download. And then that opts you in to continue to receive education from us. So we have several ways to opt into our content. If you're looking for banking services and you go to our website, then we're going to give you the opportunity to opt in if you'd like. So we get a lot of traffic just from natural searching, but we also get traffic from our involvement in local business associations. And then we continue to do the newsletters, which get forwarded on, and social media. And so we're advertising our content on social media as well.
Yeah, the content gives you an asset to go advertise, right? In a way that if especially to chambers, right, you can make it a free if you do big guides and these are, I don't know how long does it take, the typical guide. It sounds like it's kind of a months long kind of process, right?
It really depends. It depends on the type of, the amount of interviews that are done for the guide. I like to do at least 3 to 4 different sources. And so depending on how quickly we can get those sources lined up, it could probably take a good month from interview to review to publish. And there's generally an order of things. So I like to announce the event and the guide and then the blogs in order so that it's all leading up to the end. The event is the final part of that campaign because I want everyone to go to the event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's, the typical blog, right, that you sit and knock out in an hour or two in an afternoon, and then it goes on your website and no one looks at it. And maybe it has some SEO benefit, right? But you wouldn't necessarily share those with the chamber. Big association saying this is our best work, right? But you're doing it clearly from your background, from the journalistic perspective, and it creates this great asset where you can go out and promote it, and then it gives a reason. Just put that in contrast to what the typical bank does with chambers is, well, we send a loan officer, and the loan officer goes to the meetings and hands out business cards and shakes hands, which at some level is necessary, right?
Yeah.
You're going to get the deals by direct human connections and shaking hands. But, that resource gives people a reason to hear about your bank, remember your bank without feeling like they're going to be sold to.
Right.
And I think, I don't know, I think the alignment of any banking service, right, is a months-long process, right? To loans or get people to switch accounts, it's not something that you...
It's a couple years a lot of time. Yeah. It takes time. It's a long process to get a new account. Depending, but it can be long, yeah.
And I think the alignment's an interesting idea of the alignment of a newsletter, an opt-in list, the sort of the time alignment of that, works, I think, really well with the sales, the time sort of cycle of buying banking products. I say a lot look, if you're running a digital ad for a bank, you're not trying to sell t-shirts, right? So the point is to get them to click and to get them to follow through on a purchase funnel. It's to raise awareness.
It's a brand impression, yeah.
Yeah, but if you're not building a list, that awareness degrades pretty quickly unless you have the list and people remember.
This is also kind of in defense of Google's changes with cookies because you aren't getting as much data on your website visitors anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to continue to decrease. And so this is kind of we actually have a blog post coming up about this, but this is in defense of some of those changes because now I can see people that are engaging with my website because they're opting in, and I have a separate email box so I can see all the people that are engaging plus through HubSpot. But a good example is a good example of use that got me so excited is we did the how to get a business loan guide, and I saw somebody downloaded it, and then they sent an email through our contact us form with the directions we gave them on how to request a loan in the guide. Is that not amazing? Come on, because it gave directions. This is what you need to ask for. This is what you need to say you have. And they use that same format in the request or the contact us form.
That's amazing. That's the difference between, the ChatGPT version of that blog and the guide that you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Because generally, generally speaking, if you're somebody looking for a loan, you probably already have a name of a lender. But if you're new to lending, the guide can really help you understand what you need to get a loan, which also puts you in the driver's seat of knowing what to ask for and what kind of loan you're looking for. So it just empowers that visitor or customer more.
So I think to clarify for our listeners too, Hollie, so the difference in that story that you just told and Dan was referring to as well is such a different prospect and customer journey than, a business owner seeing a digital ad and they click on that and they come to a landing page and it's got 3 bullet points about the features of a business checking account.
Right.
Okay. I mean, right?
Because all of us sell the same thing. We all have checking accounts. We all have,
Thank you. That's what I was getting at. Is
the difference is
value you're providing, right?
Yeah.
As I say, the same thing. Like the difference is not your checking account. The difference is the value that you provide, and you're showing how valuable you can be in this free guide. So if you're providing such a valuable free thing, how you're getting in the customer's head of, well, if they're doing all this value before I'm even a customer, like they're going to be a great place to bank with.
And we're also not we make it clear when you sign up. So if you want a guide, it's just your email address. And we also make it clear we're not going to call you and try to sell you anything. And then if you sign up for an event, then we get more information. We get your name, your company, your amount of employees you have, how long you've been in business. So we ask a little bit more if you're going to attend an event. But everything else is a really easy opt-in. So you don't feel like you're going to get, a phone call in a half an hour, because that's not how banking relationships work. It's a trust thing.
Yeah. And Hollie, it's not rocket science. Every listener to this podcast, regardless of their community, has local CPAs, attorneys, financial planners, all of the above. And I love that you guys engage those community members as part of the development of content that delivers that value that we were just talking about. So, it's not just you throwing something in ChatGPT and going, okay, and putting that up as a blog and thinking that you've put resource out there. It's being enormously legit.
Yeah.
And I know that from an SEO perspective, I hate to lend this much personality to Google, but Google really appreciates, and you're able to index and all of those things. And am I tracking here with the thinking behind that? I guess a little bit more of the technical side of that process.
Yeah, I think so. Currently, how our website is structured, our guides are in PDF form. So that doesn't really provide a lot of SEO value other than the URL title. But the guides or the blog posts complement the guide. So the guide has a lot of the meat in it, but the blog posts also complement. So it'll include quotes from those resources. Google definitely likes that. And I can track what's getting read the most. And when you're in the ecosystem of content, you're getting it ungated going forward. And so I'm able to track that much better. And I can also see, what the kind of juice that Google's giving me for it because of the organic traffic.
And I know when we were prepping for this episode, you're talking about kind of the tracking and the benefits for it. I think with anything in banking, it's really hard to track ROI because a lot of the ROI of a new customer might not be realized for years down the road. But talk a little more about the tracking and how you're seeing people use it. And I know you're seeing benefits, in referrals and things like that.
Yeah, so I can look at, we use HubSpot as our platform for opt-ins. And so I can see how many times people are engaging if they're looking at different content. I can see sometimes people who have opted in still, they're still signing up for things, even though they don't have to because I've given them the ungated link, but they're still looking at we have a business resource page on our site that has everything on it. And so if you want to download anything, you can, absolutely. But we're still seeing that people are continuing to download our content, that even if we've emailed it to them ungated, but we're still continuing to see that. And we're continuing to see non-customers sign up for events and attend multiple. And I just think that's so cool. But we have so many events. We also have this Money Smart series, which is a webinar. We did do it in person last year, but this year it's a webinar. The great thing about that is if you can't attend it, like a webinar or a podcast like this, then you can listen to it when you're ready. And so we are doing that on top of all the other events. I have to brag a little bit because this is my favorite thing. We just wrapped an event last week on women-owned business certifications. And so we did a guide that talked about what it means to be a women or minority-owned certified business in Washington State. What certifications are available, how to get certified, what the pain points are, and some resources to call. And we did the guide, we did the blog posts, we did social media, and we also wrapped with an event last Wednesday, and I had to cut it off at 60 attendees, 60 registrants. It was so fun. So if you can imagine that many women in one room, just meeting each other and talking, and our panelists were phenomenal because they were just sharing their experience of getting certified, which was quite hysterical, just because they were really funny women and fun women. But it all ends for me, it all ends with how are you making that impact? And if in this circumstance, are those women going to get certified and help their businesses grow? And have they met new people that are going to help their businesses grow? So those events aren't necessarily just for the education, but also to meet other people.
Yeah, I mean, and those opportunities are so hard to come by in general. We talk a lot on the show. A recurring theme is, around the more interesting, the more specific you make a message, the more juicy it is for the customer, right? So I'm just in my mind contrasting your event where you're turning people away and capping it because it's so popular versus
we still have last minute people. I'm like, it's okay, come on in.
Till the fire department shuts it down. Well, contrasting that with the typical community bank event, which is like an open house, right? Or you grill some hot dogs in the parking lot, which is a cool community thing, but most banks would be lucky to get 60 people for something like that. But it's because it's a general event. You're trying to make everybody happy with it versus getting something, really niche that's going to get a very small, a much bigger percentage of a small group of people excited. But sometimes that, leads to more results.
Positive brand impression. I think the difficulty still lies in how do you determine if those have become customers? And so at this point, the only way I'm able to know is those conversations that the bankers are having with those attendees. And if they remember to tell me, oh, this person who attended this, they converted to a customer. And that's a concerted effort on those events too, because we want to show. So last year we had from our events, we had 5 new customers. But that's all I could tell just from those conversations. If they went into another branch, because we have branches all over the area, if they went and opened an account in another branch, because my HubSpot system doesn't talk to my core system, I don't know. I don't know if that has happened other than that one banker telling me.
And it could be a year later, right?
It could be 2 years later.
They may be some of those people that attend multiple events and, hey, my loan is ending in 2 years and I need to refinance or whatever, then it could take that long, but
it could
pull them in the ecosystem.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is a long train process. And Hollie, at several points during this visit, you've mentioned your internal team. To me, it would seem that they feel bought in.
Oh yeah.
And I guess resourced as well. And I'm asking, is that the case? Because you mentioned early on about going to them and you're actually listening, which and in business and in life, we all don't probably do as good of a job as we do. But it sounds like you do a good job of listening to your local managers and boots on the ground and all that, and then take it, and that ends up in a women-owned business, XYZ, because your folks were hearing that, and there's a need for that. And it, Dan, to your point, it was a specific something that you were able to carry forward. So it sounds like that's a really big deal internally as well.
Yeah, definitely. I have some bankers that are really engaged in this process with me, and we couldn't do this without them 100%. And they're at every event, and they're encouraging everyone to invite people. They're very involved. So we couldn't do this without them, for sure.
That's great. Yes. I mean, it's just, I'm going to contrast one more time of the, content as a to-do list item versus, as a prospecting tool.
Yeah.
We're all busy, we meaning, bank marketers, right? Typically you've got too much on your plate and too small of a team. And so it's really easy to just get stuff and make everything a to-do list item that you just kind of knock out. But it's almost, there's little to no, upside to doing it that way, right? If you can create that process around, double, triple down on the things that, on a couple different things, you're going to get outsized results versus trying to do, 30 different things at once.
Yeah. And I think the great thing about it is it really complements just the community bank message that community bankers are here to help and support. Like that's what every community banker wants to do, is help. And so this allows them to help in ways that they probably weren't able to before, because we can actually offer, here's something. And they might not have had the resource of a lawyer or a CPA or anything like that, but having the bank support them in resources to give their customers, I think that's...
Yeah, you could be saving people tons of money on, lawyer consults on succession planning and, just from, hey, I don't need a lawyer, I don't need a business attorney yet, but, I have some questions and you're answering them.
One. Yeah. Yeah.
And you're helping, those attorneys that you're quoting in the articles to, get connections to. And it's really, literally is kind of forming a layer of the community.
Absolutely.
Great what you've put together and the process you're following. So,
and thank you for mentioning that too, that it's a perfect fit with the passion of what community bankers typically are about. Mm-hmm. And that's huge as well, and is a differentiator. Even though you guys are a significant size community bank, so whether you're 3.7 billion or whether you're 300 million, can still do the system that you're talking about, and it fits with who you are as a community bank. And I know that we have a lot of community bank leaders that listen to this show, and C-suite folks, and I hope that a lot of this is really registering. Yes, you're talking about marketing, but boy, this is really says a lot about the personality of who Coastal is, what you offer, what you're about, and that you're that engaging. And it's free. It's long cycle relationship building, but like you said, they're not having to pay to be in a club. You're offering this as a community bank.
And from a marketing budget standpoint, the content is relatively inexpensive. If you're either hiring a content writer or you're doing the content yourself, if you have that skill set on your team, the expense is pretty low. HubSpot is really inexpensive. If you have bankers that are engaged, that doesn't cost you anything. If you are able to change your website, that doesn't cost you anything. So it's a really low cost way to engage with your customers and the community. So that's always a win when it comes to bank marketing. Budget's always a thing.
Stop giving money to Google.
Well, you still have to do that, but
manage the amount of money you give to Google.
And I I think there's also a benefit too if you don't have online account opening, and a lot of community banks don't offer that on the business side. But if you don't have a call to action other than call or do a contact us form, this is another call to action to offer. So then you can see who's doing what on your website.
Yeah.
So glad you said that. Good stuff. Yes.
I'm an SEO. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is all
CTAs. What do we want them to do? What's the goal?
There you go.
This is all great stuff. I appreciate you taking the time to come on the show. Got a minute? We've got some lightning round questions that we ask all our guests.
Yeah. All
right. Well, let's do it. So can you share a personal best and a business best?
So personal and business, I think an old journalism saying in article writing is you're only as good as your last article. And so I would say my personal best at this point was that women-owned business certification workshop in class last week. Because I'm still kind of, all the good feels from it because it was so good.
Great. What's your favorite book or other resource?
Strengths Finder by Don Clifton. If you've ever read that book, if you manage people, it really helped me understand how to leverage the strengths of people on my team. And so that book changed my management life.
That's great. My wife is a certified strengths coach, and so I'm.
Oh, okay.
I've done the test, and it's great. It's great stuff.
Yeah.
What's the most impactful piece of advice you've received?
Years ago, when my roommate got married, her dad did a speech, and her dad was a doctor, a retired doctor, but he said the one thing that people say on their deathbed is it's not that they wanted to work more, it's not that they wanted to make more money, but it's that they wanted to spend more time with their people that they love. And so I always remember that, and I will never forget that piece of advice.
Great. How about something, flip that around, how about something you always tell your team or your customers?
Mistakes I tell this to my team, I won't say this to customers, but mistakes happen and we learn from our mistakes, and mistakes are okay, and nobody's going to die in marketing. Because sometimes mistakes that we make, we just feel so awful. If you sent an email and the subject line had a misspelling in it or something like that, nobody's going to die. It's okay. We just won't do that again. But you have to learn from your mistakes to have it happen, to get better.
That's a great one.
I mean, there might have been somebody that's died in marketing, but not that I know.
Awesome. Well, yeah, the last one's the softball, but how can people want to learn more about what you're doing? How can they get in touch with you? Where should they go to opt in if they want to, see the newsletter firsthand?
They can go to coastalbank.com, and we have some newsletter pop-ups. You can sign up for any of our guides. But if you want to contact me directly, go to my LinkedIn account.
All right. Well, we'll link both of those up in the show notes. And
And then check out our resources page on our website. So if you look in the top navigation, it's business resources, and you can see all the things.
I can absolutely promise you that any of our listeners, if they're out on a run or something like that, are going, okay, I'm going to have to go look at the show notes and go check those resources page out. So that's really great stuff, Hollie.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This has been really fun. I love talking about content, and it's not too often that I get to geek out about it. So thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, no, really been great having you on. And thank you so much. I know hopefully everybody's got a good takeaway or two, but I know I'm going to go check out your blog, and we'll get you some more subscribers.
Thanks.
Yeah. But thank you so much, Hollie. I appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
And to all of our listeners, speaking of subscribers, if you have not yet, Dan, we're in year 3 here, and the podcast continues to grow. If you haven't clicked subscribe, please go do that. Go to bankmarketingshow.com for lots of engagement with our other guests, other resources, and good bits and information there. We also have an AI guide there where you can check out, just put in content, and Hollie's episode and lots of other ones will come up, and really resourceful things for you guys as listeners too. So be sure to do that, and we appreciate everyone for joining us.
Thanks for joining us. To go deeper or get access to some of the valuable nuggets from today's show, go to bankmarketingshow.com. There you'll find episodes, links to resources, and much more. Be sure to subscribe wherever you find your podcasts. And join us next time.